So today I'm going to go over something that I was mentioning on my story yesterday in regards to the chemicals within food. In fact, I'm just going to start out by saying, listen, if you're afraid of the chemicals within your food, then unfortunately you need to go to a different time period altogether. And even then, you need to understand that every food has a chemical makeup. When someone says to somebody, the chemical makeup of food or the chemicals within food, people have this stigma attached to that in regards to all chemicals are bad. All chemicals are, like bad for your health, etc., etc. That's a stigma attached to chemicals within food these days, which shouldn't be there, because the majority of food has chemicals within it, and every single food on earth has a chemical makeup. The word chemical has just started to be a little bit of a red flag for people, unfortunately. And to this day, I still don't know where it comes from. Potentially because of the cartoons we usually watch. When we think of chemicals, we think of people in labs, in lab coats, mixing together some dangerous substance. Or when people say chemicals in food, people think about people who make food and add additives to it, etc. Or the pesticides, etc. They think of that. But either way, the word chemical isn't a bad thing. Having a chemical in something is not a bad thing. In actual fact, I'm about to read something out for you, okay? Before I read it out for you, I'm just going to make a point. So, if you say the chemicals within a food, no matter what that food is, the chemical, if you do not understand what a chemical compound is, you will feel a little bit anxious that you do not know what you're intaking. So if someone comes up to you and says, oh yeah, that food has aspartame in it, then if you don't know what aspartame is, it's a sweetener, then ultimately you're going to be like, ooh, what's that? What's aspartame? That sounds bad. Because reading out the scientific name for any kind of chemical will sound bad, because that's just because you don't have any idea what it is. Let me give you an example. Quercetin-3 galactoside, quercetin-3 glucoside, quercetin-3 rhamnoside, catechin, epitaxin, prosinalanin, I'm not even going to try and pronounce that, cyadin-3 galactoside, chromic acid, chlorogenic acid, gallic acid, and fluoridazine. Now, if I read all of those out to you, you're probably going to think, what the fuck's that? That sounds wrong. That shouldn't be in food. I've actually just read out a bunch of antioxidant compounds within an apple, a natural apple that grows. It naturally produces these chemicals within inside it. But you're never going, and that's if you grew it naturally as well. Like no pesticides, nothing attached to it. If you literally planted an apple, grew it out of the ground, it would have all of these antioxidant compounds within it, these are chemical compounds. So what you need to understand is, obviously, you're not going to stop eating apples and stop eating fruit because of the chemicals that I've just read out. Chemicals in and of themselves are not bad. They aren't. First things first is, the poison is in the portion. If you eat too much of something, there is going to be some negative side effects, and that goes for everything. If you drink too much water, you will be hyperhydrated and will ultimately die. But no one's saying avoid water. If you eat too many vitamin A tablets, you will get vitamin A toxicity and bad things will happen. If you eat too many of these compounds, these chemicals, things will happen. We all know the side effects of we might know the side effects of eating too many apples. If you eat too many apples, you will get diarrhea. So eating chemicals or having chemicals in food is not a bad thing. The bad thing is when people start demonizing things that they know that people have no idea about. Having chemicals within food is not a bad thing. The chemicals within food aren't inherently a bad thing. If they were a bad thing, then food regulators would not put them in. They would not put them in if they had any risk of causing long-term health defects in human beings long-term, then they wouldn't put them in the food. They wouldn't serve food like that. They wouldn't give people food like that. It's kind of why, you know, MSG, the seasoning that is kind of like salt that they use in like Chinese takeaways and stuff, that was actually, it's quite a questionable substance in America because people looked at any kind of long-term health defects, and there was a slight chance that people who eat more MSG tend to get chronic headaches. There was a slight, not even that significant amount of people that had side effects from eating too much MSG. So they stopped regulating it as much. And that's if something very, very small in the minority of people happen. That's why I don't know if it's now still allowed in the USA, but I know that people in the USA struggle to buy MSG, or it might actually be the UK, it's one of them. But the thing that you need to understand is that chemicals within food are not bad. And if you ever watch a YouTube video or a reel or a TikTok of somebody going into a supermarket and reading out all of the chemical ingredients within a food and making it sound bad, understand that they're relying on you not knowing what these chemicals are in order to paint them with a bad picture. As I said, if I went into a supermarket and started to read out all of the chemicals that I literally just said, and said, well, this food has all of these chemicals in it, you're going to look at me like, oh, no, I shouldn't be eating that. I shouldn't really be eating this. I shouldn't really be eating that. But then it's only after that I say that that's the chemical makeup of an apple, then you start realising that as soon as it's put into painted as a picture that you actually understand, you start realising that it's not actually that bad for you. Don't listen to any knobhead that's trying to scaremonger you into not eating food because of the chemicals within inside it, because ultimately there are chemicals within every food that you eat. And if you want to avoid chemicals completely, then unfortunately you're going to have to stop eating food. That's just the gist of it. The poison is in the portion. Understand that. I hope that helps and I hope that makes sense. If you've got any questions for me, make sure that you send me a DM on my Instagram at k.p_health. If you want any more free resources, including my Ultimate Eating Out Guide, my 5-ingredient recipe book, and my free alcohol cheat sheet, send me an email on my email address, kieran@kphealth.co.uk, and I'll send that through to you, no strings attached. In the meantime, take care, have a lovely rest of your day, have a lovely rest of your week, and I'll speak to you again very soon. Peace.